Welcome to the next day of our summer review. Today we're doing domain and range. So quickly, domain is the set of all x values, and range is the set of all y values. And keep in mind real quick that for x, domain is the x values, range is the y values, but there's something to keep in mind that if you see something like f of x, that's the same thing as y. So range could be either one of these. Domain can only be x, range could be either one, just so you know. All right, so looking at this problem, the graph of the part of linear function g is shown on the grid. Which inequality best represents the domain of the part shown? So if you were actually physically writing this, you would put less than x less than. Now, using a little bit of common sense here, if you look at your answer choices, we see x, x, g of x, g of x. Well, there's a difference between x and g of x, like there's a difference between x and f of x. G of x is actually the range, so automatically we can get rid of those. So, domain is left to right. Now, the good thing is we already eliminated two of our problems, and these have the same exact answers. So the main difference is whether it's these two signs or these two signs. Well, at -9, x is -9, we have an open circle. Remember, an open circle means you use less than. A closed circle, we use less than or equal to. So because that is open, we should have an open, a less than sign. At 2, it's closed, so we use this sign. So the correct answer is F. All right, next one. Quadratic is shown on the grid. It wants the domain and the range. So real quick, domain is from left to right. Before we do that, remember domain is x, range is y, or f of x. So let's just quickly, before we go any further, let's see if we can eliminate any answers. Okay, A says x is domain, range is y. This one is possible. This one says domain is all real numbers, range is y. Okay, that's possible. The next one says domain is x, range is all real numbers. That's possible. This one says domain is y. No, that's backwards. So I at least could eliminate one answer choice here. Now, let's go left to right. So the furthest left the graph goes on the x-axis looks like -7.5 maybe. However, there's an arrow there which tells us infinity, negative infinity to be specific. Okay, on this side, it looks like 1.5, but again, there's an arrow there, so that means infinity. So if I was writing this, it would be negative infinity is less than x is less than infinity. Infinity to infinity is all real numbers, so that means that this one's wrong, that one's possible, that one's wrong. Done. That's the answer. Now, if I had to do range, I would look up on the y-axis. The lowest it goes is 5. That should be a y. It goes up to infinity because the arrows. Now, because there's not an open circle here, I can assume it's closed. So I just flip it around, and that would be my range. All right, so use these skills to eliminate answer choices when you're doing these. A big part of this is if you can remember whether domain is x, range is y. If you can remember that part, you can always eliminate answers. So try to get that memorized.